The goal of quality action teams is to get everyone working in quality improvement in teams. Unlike a suggestion program where one individual can pop up a suggestion and someone else has to do something about it, when it comes to quality improvement, everyone has to get involved. They have to get involved in recommending solutions, and they have to get involved in executing those solutions. Quality improvement opportunities take many forms. Sometimes you're trying to correct things that are obviously wrong. Other times you're trying to prevent things from going wrong in the first place. And certainly other times you're just trying to improve the general overall level of performance. If it ain't broke, you still want to fix it. When we consider quality improvement opportunities, we think of them as problems. Problems for a team to work on. And often those problems are handed to you on a platter by powers from on high. But sometimes you have to sift through your own working environment and play what if. What if we could prevent? What if things could be better than they are now? For example, one of our clients is a major insurance company. The president of the insurance company is a great believer in quality improvement and meeting customer needs. Indeed, in his insurance company, the customer response time is the best in his entire industry. If you called his company with a problem about your policy, they would get back to you within 5 days. The average in the industry, I understand, is close to 3 weeks. Recently, he brought his managers together and he said he still wasn't satisfied. He wanted to bring that customer response time down to 1 day. He said, 5 days is like calling the airline and asking, when is my flight? And the airline's response would be, I'll tell you in 5 days. And he said, for our business, that's simply not good enough. Now, when he said that, all of his management team groaned because he'd been saying things like that before. But even as they groaned, and even if they thought about what they had to do because they had no idea how they were going to do that, they realized that they had some skills nevertheless. They had taken problems like that before and ripped them apart and put them back together, and they were going to do it again. Here's the process that they went through. You see, they had acquired some skills. They knew how to focus in on a problem, how to analyze a problem and rip it apart so that they could develop solutions and execute solutions in a way that fostered continual and ongoing improvement. That's what we're going to do. In this phase, we're going to focus on focus. The output of the phase is a problem statement that everyone helps shape. Everyone participates in developing. And that statement is going to include a description of where you are now and where you'd like to go, and the impact of staying where you are now versus the benefits of getting to where you'd like to go. The process of problem solving, of defining a problem and ripping it apart, is very old. It goes back beyond Aristotle to the pyramids. I think a lot of people feel that the Japanese have acquired some kind of magical technology that the rest of us can't translate, and that allows them to be so good in the area of quality and quality improvement. The fact is, the technology exists, and all of us can use it if we choose to. Remember that team in the introductory tape that functioned so well? They spoke a common language, they had tricks and skills and tools that they could apply to almost any problem. Let's put them back in a situation in time. Let's go back to pyramid building, and let's see how well they would function without any skills and tools and a boss that was beating them up for quality improvement.
Okay, let's settle down. Everybody got coffee?
Yeah.
All over every place. Bizarre. All right, good. Now, where did we leave off at the last meeting, Kathy?
Same place as always. Nowhere.
Right. Okay. I think I should tell you that the taskmasters are getting a little impatient with us. They've only got 75 years to finish this pyramid, and they feel that we should have been able to come up with a good quality improvement opportunity for our team to work on by now.
What about the problem of the pyramid being too far away from the river?
Yeah, whatever happened to that?
Well, senior management agreed that that was a big problem, but they felt that moving either the pyramid or the river was a little unrealistic. So let's stick to issues where we can have an impact.
Well, how about safety? Something has to be done about those falling stone blocks.
What's that, Ralph?
Ralph says the falling stone blocks have had a big impact on him.
Pretty good, Ralph.
All right. All right. But what about safety? Mark?
You want to know why injuries are up? It's because my guys are working double shifts.
Here we go again. The same ideas as last week. Look, why can't we get into my sales issue? I have made a commitment for on-time delivery of this pyramid. And do you know what the Pharaoh does to people who don't meet their commitments? You think Ralph looks bad. Whoa.
So what is the problem that you're suggesting?
The problem that I'm suggesting is that we are 6 years behind schedule on this thing.
But that's not the problem. That's just the result of all the delays we're having.
Result. Problem. Look, call it what you want. All I know is that I have a little more at stake here than my sales commission.
We are not getting anywhere this way. You can't stop delays without dealing with the problem of job safety. I mean, look at Ralph here. How productive do you think he is?
What?
He says he wants someone to get him another donut.
Well, give him a donut then.
Like crazy.
Look, we've got to make a decision here. Is it going to be safety, delays?
Well, what about overworked crews?
Okay, Mark, overworked crews. Or do we want to look closer at why we're getting so many cracked stone blocks? Look, one way or another, we've got to make up our minds.
I think I've got the answer. It touches every one of the problems you've mentioned. And if you ask me, it's precisely what we're looking for.
Come on, Kathy, get to the point.
Aha! That's precisely what I'm doing. The point of the pyramid, the primary source of all our problems. It's difficult to build, hence all your delays and your double work shifts. A dangerous work site, resulting in higher rates of accidents.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? Build pyramids without points?
We're just trying to identify problems here, Alice. Let's not rush into solutions just yet.
Well, why not, Dave? I mean, the points cause our problems.
Let's just decide as a group if this is the problem we want to work on, all right? Everyone in favor, raise your hand.
Why not anything?
Is that a yes vote, Ralph?
Well, I'll go along with it if that's what you want. But I thought the issue of cracked blocks was a good idea.
We're not looking for good ideas, Alice. We're looking for problems for the group to work on.
Flat top pyramids it is. The next question is, who's going to take this idea to Pharaoh? I see. Well, I guess we're back where we started. You know, there's got to be a better way to focus on a problem than this.
There certainly is a better way. This may make a pretty good trash can at a fast food restaurant, but it makes a lousy pyramid. How do you prevent things like this from happening? Pointless pyramids. In order to focus in on a problem, the first thing you have to do is generate a list of possible problems to work on. But then you want to choose one based on objective criteria. And then you want to clarify and verify and define so that the team agrees on what it wants to change. We have some tools to help you do that. Brainstorming, selection grid, and impact analysis. If your Pharaoh lays a problem on you and you have no choice over the matter, you probably only need impact analysis. If, however, your team is surveying the environment to improve quality, you probably want to add brainstorming and the selection grid. Brainstorming was developed in 1954 by an advertising executive, Alec Osborne. He was trying to get more creativity out of his ad people, and he came up with a process that we can use today to generate a list of problems to work on, generate a list of solutions and innovative ideas, or generate data to get solutions for innovative ideas. As you'll see in the workshop, the process is very simple, and it's always the same. A group of individuals come together to decide on which problem or which issue they want to brainstorm about. All ideas are recorded, a time limit is set, members are encouraged to participate, no comments, positive or negative, are allowed. So there's usually somebody with a flip chart or a blackboard and a marker. They decide on the issue they want to work on, and around the room the pace goes, everybody offering up any ideas they can think of. Soon a list emerges. What we're searching for is cognitive synergy. That something that's said at the very beginning is tied into something that's said at the end, and when everyone finishes their ideas, most of the time, you have a dramatic display of creative energy. more than any one individual in the group could have come up with alone. Brainstorming is very powerful, but it isn't often used beyond this process. I'm a consultant to the Surgeon General of the Air Force, and recently I spoke with 70 Air Force generals and colonels about management techniques, and I asked them, how many of you know about brainstorming? 70 men and women raised their hands. It's hard to be an officer in the military and not run into brainstorming somewhere. I then said, how many of you like brainstorming when you use it? And 70 people raised their hands. And then I said, how many of you have run a brainstorming session in the last 3 months? Nobody raised their hand. The problem with brainstorming is it doesn't take you far enough. It gives you a list of very creative possible ideas, but that list has to be narrowed down. A very helpful tool in helping you narrow down a brainstorming list is called the selection grid. A selection grid is a chart that helps you select one option out of many. In our process, we use it in 2 places: choosing a problem or choosing a solution, but always with objective criteria. Constructing a selection grid is very simple. The first thing you have to do is narrow your list down from the brainstorming session. It's impossible to evaluate 15 or 20 items at any one time, so we have to consolidate the list down to some manageable number. We suggest less than 5. Then you have to choose criteria with appropriate scoring systems. Fill in the grid to evaluate options, and use the grid to help select the best option. There are a couple of ways to narrow down your list, and narrow it down you must. The office staff in my company got together and formed a group to look at quality improvement opportunities in the company. They called themselves, by the way, the Dobie Wallas, which I found out later means washers of dirty linen in Indian. They generated a list that was 3.5 pages long. The problem was they personally couldn't influence every item on that list. They had to narrow it down. And there are a couple of ways to do that. First way is to simply go about the group and ask everyone, what's the most important problem you'd like to work on? What's the top priority as far as you're concerned? If that process doesn't work, you may need to move to another process that's more objective. Simply give everyone on the team 10 points and let them distribute the 10 points down the entire list from the brainstorming session. Some people who really feel strongly about something will obviously allocate 10 points to their pet topic, but others will spread it out over 2 or 3 different items. When they're finished, you will be able to total up the gross number, and that will help you narrow down your list to hopefully 4 or 5 items that you can now plug into the selection grid. We talked about criteria before, and each one of those items has to be compared to criteria. For example, is it worthwhile? Is it doable? Will management support us? Can we all participate in it? Is there a sense of urgency? And for every one of those criteria, there's also its own little mini scoring system, like yes or no, or high, medium, and low. When it's all laid out, you can then fill in the grid, and the most likely problems or options to work on become very evident. Let's take a look at a case and see how a selection grid is constructed. In one organization, a cross-functional team of 5 managers got together and created a selection grid. Among the issues that they wanted to work on included rework, limited office space, delivery problems, and customer complaints. They then chose criteria with an appropriate scoring system. For example, could they influence that problem? Was it worthwhile to work on? Would senior management support them if they tried to work on it? And was there a sense of urgency or timeliness about those issues? They filled out the grid individually, totaled everyone's score, and chose to work on the problem of rework. It was the one item that met all of the criteria and produced the highest score. Sometimes there is no highest score, but the process helps you identify the major concerns of everybody on the team and helps the team arrive at a consensus a lot easier. You remember when we started this phase, we talked about the fact that there are 3 tools to help you arrive at a problem statement: brainstorming and selection grid and impact analysis. And whether or not your Pharaoh has laid a problem on you so that you only need to do impact analysis, or whether or not you've gone through the process of brainstorming and selection grid, every one of us is now ready to do impact analysis. That's the process where we really tell each other war stories. We tell what the impact of this particular problem has been on our lives, so that we can almost automatically ask the question, so what? We've got a problem. Here's how it impacted on me. So what as far as the group is concerned? It's actually a process of data collection. When the group finishes the process of impact analysis, they now are pretty well sure that this is indeed a problem that has touched the lives of everybody on the team. Then they are now ready to construct a problem statement. And remember, a problem statement is merely a statement that says, what is our current situation? What is the desired state? And what is the impact? The impact of staying in this current state or moving to our desired state going to be? After you finish impact analysis and generating a problem statement, you may find that there really is no great problem. You may also find the problem is so big you got to redefine it and start all over again in little pieces. But most of the time, especially when you go through the process of brainstorming and selection grid, you really do find that you end up, after impact analysis, working on the right problem.
You certainly made it sound simple enough.
Now, come on, let's give it a try. Since we haven't identified the problem to work on, we should start by generating a list of problems. So let's go around the table and everyone suggest a problem that we might work on. And no evaluation, good or bad. Mark, will you write all these ideas down?
Sure.
Okay, Ralph, go first.
Sunburn.
I think he said sunburns.
Sunburns. I think that's the least of his problems.
No evaluation, Captain. Next.
Delays.
Delays.
Training for management.
Hold it, I gotta get this down.
What's the hieroglyphics for training?
Oh,
And-
yeah. How about the crack blocks?
Oh, don't forget the points on the pyramid. Those are very important.
Points, and let's not forget the injuries.
Injury.
Okay, of the 15 problems we considered working on, these 3 are the ones that interested us most as a group. And according to our grid, the one that comes out ahead is cracked stone blocks, though we did agree that the safety issue was an important one, too. Alice, you felt that the problem of increased injuries would be a good problem to bring back to the safety committee, is that right?
Right. We have a meeting next week.
Now, does anyone have any information on the number of cracked stone blocks and where they're turning up?
Well, we don't know where they're happening, but we're seeing almost twice as many as we did on the last pyramid.
Well, that would seem to support the problem as being worthwhile and probably give us a basis for getting senior management support. Let's describe the impact of the cracked stone blocks on each of us and verify if it's really worth working on. Go ahead, Mark.
Whenever we get a cracked stone block, our crew has to haul it down the pyramid and then bring up the replacement. I've had to add 300 people to the crew to handle the rework.
Next.
Well, if the cracks are causing delays, then it's certainly a problem that we should solve so we can get back on schedule and maybe meet the delivery requirements.
And I talked with 3 workers just this week who complained about how frustrating it was for them to replace crack blocks that are already in place. Besides, that's got to be one of our major causes of injury and a quality control problem.
We lost a whole day last week replacing cracked stones already set in place.
Well, it sounds as if we verified the impact of the problem and the value of working on it. Well, then, shall we move on to the problem statement? Sure. What should we include?
How about a description of how things are different from the way we'd like them to be?
Okay, now one last time to make sure that everybody is happy with the problem statement. Why don't you read it, Bob?
Okay. Over the last 6 months, the number of cracked stone blocks has quadrupled from approximately 100 per shipment to 400, resulting in schedule delays, costly rework, worker frustration, and serious injuries.
Well, what do you think?
Good.
It's important that everybody feels comfortable with this before we proceed to data gathering and analysis.
It's good. I'm not confident.
What's the matter, Ralph?
I'm not going to say anything.
Ralph says he's not comfortable.
Okay, Ralph, well, how would you change the problem statement?
I don't think it's right. I'm not going to think of him.
Wait a second. He says there's nothing wrong with the problem statement. It's just he's not comfortable.
Oh, here, why don't we turn him over for a while?
I hope that by now you and Ralph are comfortable with our way of focusing in on a problem. You know, you just have to make an upfront investment. But it's an investment that will pay off handsomely for you. It's an investment of time. You've got to spend time getting everyone involved, time verifying and clarifying that you are working on the right problem, time picking the right problem to work on. If you don't do that, members of the group don't care, and the team ends up working on problems that simply don't matter to anyone. You know, there's an old story of a tourist who goes up to Maine and he comes to an intersection, he rolls down his window and he yells over to the farmer on the corner, "Hey, buddy, does it matter if I make a left or right to get to South Paris?" And the farmer says, "Not to me, it doesn't." Well, by the time you go through our process, you'll be able to create a problem statement that will allow you to work on a problem that you can fix and a problem that will stay fixed.